Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today is going to be a very different video, but I would argue this is probably the most important video I have ever made because it is the one that has the capacity to help many more people in this industry. At the moment, the problem that I hear many of us have with the trucking industry is the fact that there are folks out there who are running and taking loads without knowing their expenses, which ends up not only driving them into the ground, right? Because very often they run at a loss, but it also ends up suppressing those rates if enough people are doing it. So one thing I have learned is that pointing the finger and yelling or blaming people that you are the reason the market is not doing well, you shouldn't be taking such low rates, that doesn't work. That gets people on the defensive. So instead, what I did was I created something that if enough people start using these two tools that I created, it will change how people book loads, and it has the capacity potentially to change the average rate per mile. It's live on my website right now. You can access it at any time, but for now, let's go through it. Ready? Let's go. So two things have to happen in order for people to stop taking loads that are costing them money. Number one, they have to know their expenses, and that's where the cost per mile calculator comes into play, which we will go through. Number two is knowing how much you are making or losing off of each load that you are planning to take. And this is where my load profitability calculator comes into play, and I really hope that everyone starts using it before booking those loads. All right, we'll start with the cost per mile calculator so I can explain how to use it on my website. And number two, we'll go through the load profitability calculator so that you can use it every day before booking loads. All right, so I'm gonna move over here so you can see everything here. So the first thing you wanna do is you go to the website www.truckingmadesuccessful.com and then click on the new cost per mile calculator. So before you even start, the one thing you have to be aware of is if you are on a mobile device, please turn your mobile device to landscape mode. All right, let's start entering some things in. So let's say the gross income for the month is $25,000. Days worked. How many actual days did you work? Not how many days there are in the month. How many days did you work? So let's say in this case, it's 28 days. It's July, so days in the month would be 31 days total. Whoops, 31. And let's say that the total miles were about 11,200 miles. All right, next we want to start entering in our fixed expenses. These are expenses that do not change, right? So number one, let's say truck payment, and that would be, let's say, $2,500 per month. Trailer would be around 1,100 per month. I'm entering it in as you're seeing. Let's see, let's put load board at $149 per month. We have ELD, which will be $75 per month. And insurance, of course. And let's say that insurance is at $1,250 per month. Now we'll leave this here for now. And what you will see is on the right side, there's right away the cost per mile of each expense and the cost per day of each expense. At the bottom, you will see the total fixed expenses for the month. Excuse me, I'm having a hard time speaking today. And you will see the total fixed cost per mile as well as the total fixed cost per day. All right, now let's go into our variable expenses. These are the expenses that change constantly. So number one, let's type in fuel and let's put in 7,240 for fuel. Then let's say there was maintenance, which includes tires in this case, 3,729. Let's put in tolls at 350 right there. And then let's put in driver salary. And let's say he is earning 70 cents per mile, which puts him at about $7,840 for the month. Let's also add dispatch, 5%. and that would be around $12.50 per month for this. Again, cost per mile and cost per day are shown on the right of these expenses. At the bottom, you will see the totals, the total variable expenses, the total variable cost per mile, and cost per day. Now, if we scroll to the top, we are going to see that number one, we see the total gross, how much money you made, how much money you spent, total expenses, your net profit, which is negative here, $483 negative. The rate per mile was $2.23 on average. Your cost per mile is $2.28 on average. So your profit per mile is negative 4 cents per mile. Now, if you scroll down, you are going to see some calculations. Now, these are calculations that I want you to pay attention to, and you can actually, at the bottom in blue, you can put in your email and email yourself all of these numbers so you can access them at a later date. But these are calculations you have to remember because these are the ones you're going to be using in your load profitability calculator. So we have the total cost per mile, total cost per day, and then hybrid. This is something that I created and it's going to make sense in a minute, but it shows you the fixed cost per day as well as the variable cost per mile. Again, email it to yourself if you need to reference it, but for sure, remember these numbers, these 4 boxes. All right, so now let's go up. And what we do is we click on load profitability right here. All right, let's go ahead and put in some numbers into the load profitability calculator. So from the last screen, I have a screenshot of what the cost per mile and so on was. So the cost per mile was $2.28. The total cost per day was $910.11. The fixed cost per day was $181.21, and the hybrid cost for variable cost per mile, the variable cost per mile was $1.82. All right, so once you enter in this information, what you need to do is, as you are looking to book a load, all you have to do is put in some load information. First of all, the load rate. How much does this load pay? So let's say it's $2,800. How many deadhead miles, right? How many miles do you have to drive in order to pick up this load? Let's say it's 170 miles. How many loaded miles? How many miles is it from the shipper to the receiver? Let's say it's about 925 loaded miles. Day span. This is how many days it will take you to complete this load. So for example, if you pick up today and deliver tomorrow morning and grab another load tomorrow, that means it took you 1 day to deliver this load. If you pick up today and deliver tomorrow evening, which means that tomorrow you're not picking up another load, it took you 2 days, okay? If it doesn't make sense, just leave a comment, I'll explain it. So let's say this one takes about 2 days to do. All right, so at the bottom we have some calculations. Number 1, the first line is the total miles for this load, right? The deadhead plus the loaded miles. Number 2, the total rate per mile for this load, right? How much does this load pay per mile with deadhead? And then you have a blue, green, and orange section. So there are 2 groups at the moment. There are people who use their cost per mile to calculate profitability, and there are people who use cost per day to calculate profitability. Both of these are here. The cost per mile profitability is in blue. The cost per day is in green. So you will see the first line item will be the profit or loss per mile using, for example, cost per mile calculations, and then profit and loss total for this load, how much money you earned or lost on this load. In green, it's going to be per day, right? So it's going to change a little bit. You will see that the profit and loss per mile and the total is going to change from cost per mile calculations to cost per day calculations. So in orange, you will see a hybrid section. This is the most accurate way of figuring out your profitability on any load. I don't know why there are no calculators like this. I was surprised when I came up with it. I'm like, this is so obvious. So what it does is it takes your variable cost per mile, because variable costs change depending on how much you run. fuel, for example. And it takes your fixed cost per day because fixed costs do not change regardless of whether you're running or parked. And this gives you the most accurate profitability calculation on a load per mile at the top and total at the bottom. And again, at the end, you can email yourself the results and the calculations if you want to reference them at a later date or to compare several loads at once. So why did I make this calculator? It took me forever, as funny as it sounds, it took me forever to figure out the hybrid version. But the reason I made it and the reason I'm making it free for everybody is because I believe that, again, screaming at a person and trying to prove that you are right is not going to do much. But showing a person what is actually happening can potentially change things. If people are using this calculator on a daily basis and putting in different loads and figuring out, hey, is this profitable for me or not? Once they see those numbers or a big fat minus sign that this load is costing you $300, so what's the point of taking it? I strongly believe that this is enough to get some folks to stop taking those cheap loads, regardless of what their emotional state is, right? Whether they're panicking or not. Seeing is believing, and this is literally taking some theoretical ideas people have about their business and slapping them in the face with real hard numbers. Anyway, guys, I hope this was helpful. I know it's a totally different video. I really, really hope you do use this when trying to figure out which loads to take and which loads to pass on. It's going to give you a better idea on what kind of rates you need to take in order to be profitable. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep calculating. See you in the next video.